You're listening to the Native Plants Healthy Planet podcast, presented by Pinelands Nursery. Here are your hosts, Fran Chismar and Tom Kinezic.
Welcome back to The Buzz, brought to you by the Native Plants Healthy Planet podcast, presented by Pinelands Nursery. I am Fran Chismar.
And I'm Tom Kinezic. Welcome to episode 208. And
You prepared for this?
Do you think we'll ever get to a point where we're doing zip codes and not area codes?
Oh,
208 for reference is the area code for the entire state of Idaho.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. Zip code. So
one of the 86 original area codes created by the American Telephone and Telegraph Company in 1947.
So we would have to do 20 years of this podcast to hit 1,000.
And we'd have to hit 10,000. Well, no, I guess really in the thousands, because that's where you have the zero.
Yeah, you could do zero.
Yeah.
So we would have to do another 15 and a half years. I hope to be retired by then.
Yeah. You know what? That may have been incorrect, because 986 is also an Idaho area code, so maybe it's not just 208. But
do you remember New Jersey when I think it was only two area codes?
I do, yeah.
It was 908 and 609. I
remember there being the split, and people were not happy.
Yeah, like I remember before 856. Like growing up where I grew up in PA, at the time there was only 215.
Yeah.
Like prior to 610 and all that stuff.
Yeah. But aside from area codes, we got plants to talk about. And there's one plant in particular that I could use for my That's Hot, but I'm choosing not to. We received a gift a couple weeks ago. We received a gift, and we're going to start. It's the afternoon.
Do I know?
So we're good here. I got some cups.
Oh.
This is plastic. Only the finest plastic in this place. I don't know. I have three.
All right, what do you have?
It's a jar of Madrinsky's Homestead. It says pure maple syrup, but then the top of the bottle says age 21 plus, not for kids. And I forget what he called it when he gave it to me, but it's like a maple syrup, like mixed, like cocktail kind of thing.
Ooh.
It's in a jar. It's still cold.
All right.
It didn't give a good. Right. Oh, I got to see if I can get the lid off.
And of course, when you say Madrinsky, we're talking about our listener and ecologist extraordinaire, Brad Madrinsky.
It wasn't canned, which is probably a good sign.
All right, yeah.
You know, I won a blue ribbon in the county fair for a blueberry barbecue sauce I made.
Really?
And
how long ago was that?
Last summer.
Oh.
And I got points off. I almost had a perfect score. It was all 9s and 10s. I think I had like 2 9s. The rest were 10s, except for one category, and that was canning. And it's because we didn't know that it had to be canned, so we did the canning didn't work out great. We canned it and just didn't completely seal. Yeah. And my wife's like, they don't judge you on this, so we're just going to submit it. And but they did judge you on it. I think otherwise I probably would have gotten best in show, because I got a 4 on canning. But it's like if I had gotten it was good, perfectly canned or well canned, and I got a 9 or 10 on canning, then I would have. I can't imagine that the person who got best in show did better than 2 points off.
Yeah.
So
wow.
But anyway, I'm going to pour some of this.
You know,
just a little bit. Ooh,
speaking of blueberry and recipes, I was thinking about the other day the recipe you shared. This is going back probably 2 years. The blueberry portobello tacos.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
I wish, I never wrote it down. I went home and made it that night or the next night, and it was phenomenal. And I never made it again, and I don't remember.
I have a cookbook that says it someplace.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it's in my house. Ooh,
all right, let me get up here. Any idea?
All right.
Did he give any inclination about how strong it is?
He said the original recipe had too much. Oh, yeah, that was definitely spill, not condensation. Wiping on my jeans. He said it had too much lemon in the original recipe.
Okay.
So he cut out some of the lemon, but I think it's whiskey.
All right.
I don't remember.
Well, we're gonna find out. Cheers.
Yeah. It's good.
That's really good.
It's really good.
Actually, it's almost too good. Like you could tell you're drinking alcohol, but it's.
Oh, you can? I was going to say it smells boozier than it tastes.
Yeah, the smell. Like you're getting hints that it's alcohol, but it's so sweet.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
not a bad, like not too sweet. Just like very sweet where you're like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm getting like the warmth like in the back of
And
my
those
throat.
of you who are new to us are probably wondering why we're drinking while we're doing this. And it's because it's a native plant product. It was made using Brad's own harvested maple syrup. I did not ask him if he uses red maples or sugar maples, but both are commonly used to make maple syrup.
Man, this is really good.
It was really good. Yeah.
If I made this,
Well, if
I
you need
wouldn't
some
work.
more, just let me know. I got a whole jar over here. I didn't do the shake test to see what the proof was. You know, I got to shake it and then see how big the bubbles are.
Is that what it is?
Well, it's not moonshine.
Okay.
No, I was making a joke.
Oh,
It's not
okay.
actually moonshine.
All right. This is really good.
It's very good.
Very good. Brad, thank you.
Yeah,
Much appreciated.
Thank you. We will accept all kinds of boozy concoctions that our listeners make. And
Speaking of native plant concoctions, I love that the native plant spice company is getting some love on our Facebook
Oh, yeah.
group. And
it's good stuff.
yeah.
It's like really good stuff.
the owner joined the group to chime in and say thank you for the love. So no, we appreciate it.
Yeah. So, oh man. Oh, there it is. I was going to say my plant of the week isn't here, Fran, but it is. It's just on the next page.
All right.
So
Awesome.
That's a good point to raise, is that we do have plants that we're vibing with this week in our segment That's Hot.
It's hot.
You want to go first?
Yeah, I can go first. Mine is one I've chosen before, and that is woodland stonecrop, or sedum tornatum, which many you may remember.
Deserves being repeated.
Yes, yeah. So I brought it up because I had chosen to put it in a rocky area around my air conditioner. And then Santino, who's another one of our listeners and former guest. Santino's been on, right? Yeah, he was on.
He's been on
Okay,
twice,
he
twice.
tried to not come on the one time.
But we made him.
Yeah, but we made him. He was asking how that went. And so this is kind of a little update.
Okay.
And the answer is not well. It's really, I planted a lot of plants, and some of them took off. Some of them are doing fantastic. And some of them just completely died out. And I don't know why. I thought it was because some were getting more shade than others, which may be the case. But then I have some that were in full sun, like the hottest of hot suns, and they're doing great too. And then all levels of in between. Just to back up a little bit, what I did is I have the former people, or the people who formerly owned my house, decided they wanted to put in goose egg, like gravel, around the entire foundation, every garden bed. That's what it was. Literally, the landscape around my pool when we moved in was Japanese barberry, boxwoods, and then just this gravel, like the goose eggs around. And then there's like a sub gravel that's a lot, like a pea gravel that's underneath.
Barberry around a pool.
Yeah.
That's a great
yeah.
in-ground. Like, that's a great choice.
Yeah, exactly. And the front of the house was the same way. It was like barberry boxwood. They didn't maintain it, so there's all kinds of poison ivy growing up and all the other honeysuckles growing up through it. Not great. So we removed that, and some may say our landscape is better. Some may say it's worse. So what I did in that area around the air conditioner is pulled up all the goose eggs, and I had gravel and then landscape fabric underneath.
Okay.
And I'm like, I don't really feel like pulling all of this up. I don't want to put wood chips or something else down around it, or bring in soil and put it around it. And I can't plant something so high that it's going to block the air conditioner. And it wasn't a place I could mow if I wanted to mow. It's right next to the house. So I found this sedum tornatum, and I was like, it says it can grow in rocks, so I'm going to try it and see if it works. So I got a flat. I think I got it from Daryl.
Okay.
I think he got it from North Creek. He helped me out, and then planted all around the air conditioner. And like I said, some of them did great. Some of them really flourished. Others did not. But they're blooming right now. So the ones that did do well look really cool with white flowers on top.
Awesome.
So that's why I brought it up. It's for the statistics about it from wildflower.org. It's the creeping stems of this rock-loving perennial usually send up a single flowering branch 4 to 8 inches high, with several leafier non-flowering branches. The succulent light green leaves are arranged alternately in whorls of 3. Flowers are white with 5 pointed petals and occur in 3 branch terminal clusters. Wood stonecrop is a member of the stonecrop family, which includes succulent herbs or small shrubs, commonly with star-like flowers in branch clusters. There are about 35 genera and 1,500 species. Many are cultivated as ornamentals or succulent novelties, including jade trees, stone crops, and air plants. Vegetative reproduction is common in this family, and in some members, little plantlets grow along the leaves, dropping the ground and root, which John Courtney, also been on the podcast from Kind Earth Growers, has said, buy one flat of this ever from him, you'll never need to buy it again, because you just got to like go over the top with like a rake or like lightly brush it, and all the little pieces will fall off, go on the ground, they'll root in. And
Oh, wow.
so I don't know if it'll work where I am, because it is gravel. It is not. There is nothing for it to really root into.
Gotcha.
But I'm gonna try it. We'll see.
Awesome. Awesome.
It didn't turn out well, but it's promising. There's still hope there. So I'm not ready to give up.
There's
on
always
it yet.
hope. Just look at our
prickly
pear cactus?
prickly pear cactus, which is getting 2 huge new leaves. I don't know what you call them. So, Fran,
But
what's
it's
your
looking
plant
good.
this week?
So I was inspired by the front of our office because there's a beach plum that's in bloom right as you pull into the nursery, that the flower is so profuse that you can't see the stems. Like it's literally looks like one giant like plume of flowers. So beach plum is Prunus marittima. It's a deciduous shrub that can get 8 to 12 foot tall. The native range is from New Hampshire to New Jersey, but pretty much only along the coastline. It's commonly found in full sun and dry sandy soils. It's salt-tolerant species. The profuse white blooms occur in the April to June timeframe, depending on where you're at. It's blooming for us right now. The early blooms are beneficial to bees. The fruits are dull purple to crimson and ripen from August to October. And the fruits are edible raw and taste kind of like a mixture of plums and prunes combined. The fruit can also be used to make very delicious jams and jellies. You do need 2 plants for pollination, so if you get one, make sure you buy 2. And the birds and wildlife enjoy the fruit also. And just as a reminder, Prunus is a Doug Tallamy top 5 Lepidoptera host, so you get a lot of bang for your buck on that. But it's a wonderful shrub, and I've seen it take heavier, like it's found naturally in sandy soils, but I've seen it thrive in heavier soils. So
my parents have one up by their house, and I don't know if I've been around a plant that has had more bee activity on it than that when it's in bloom. It's like, for a single plant, I can't think of another one.
Have you tried the fruit?
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, and if you're lucky enough, there are naturally occurring plants that produce a yellow fruit. It's not often, but we've had it a couple times in the nursery, or customers tell us a lot of the times they leave the nursery before they're old enough to fruit. We've had people saying, "Oh, I got a yellow one. Where did you collect the seed from?" Which we don't give that secret. So, but 2 great choices. I think either if you have the right conditions on your property, they'd be fantastic additions to your yard. So, I think both. Some maybe not the easiest plants to find, but they should be commercially available.
Yeah.
So you may have to look a little bit, but you can probably find them. So make sure you do, and enjoy them.
Yeah, you can find. I know the sedum is in Darryl grows them.
Okay,
and so you can get them in from Sunset Farmstead, American Beauty Spot. I think it's in an American Beauty Spot for that one.
I think so.
And I know, there's a bunch of like liner growers, so I'd assume there's a lot of perennial growers too. So
and Kind Earth Growers is growing them as liners, so they're selling them for projects or for supplying other nurseries to grow them out for retail sales. So make sure you do that. Want to do a little this or that?
Sure.
You can get with this, or you can get with that.
So I found it interesting. A lot of people did not like your article.
Well, of course,
or took umbrage with your article.
Yeah. Well, that was the point.
I know,
but
sometimes you get, like, we do that sometimes to show some of what's being written.
Yes. Yeah.
And sometimes I'm just surprised you didn't get more votes because it sparked a good conversation. But my article was from Curtis Honeycutt with his first native plant article for his local paper. Tom's was the popular belief and science on invasive species, and I won this week 13-3. So I am going to go first.
All right, sounds good.
I think I let you go first last time. Right?
I believe so.
All right,
yeah.
I'm going to go first this time. And I chose an article from Canada. I thought would be interesting to hear what's going on from our friends from the north. So my article is entitled "Toronto Native Plant Market Helps Gardeners Boost Local Biodiversity." This is by Gabrielle Houston on the cbc.ca. When Grant Minkhorst finally bought a home in Toronto with a little land to call his own, he checked what the previous tenants had left behind in the gardens. It wasn't much, Mancourt said. There were 3 forsythia bushes, 4 or 5 rhubarb plants, a weigela, and a bridal wreath spirea. He didn't even know the names of those plants at the time, but he later learned they have at least one thing in common: none are native to Canada. 3 growing seasons later, Mancourt had transformed his garden with native plants and shares it with 50,000 followers on TikTok. Native plants are critical to the proper functioning of Canada's ecosystem, but they can also be hard for gardeners to find. The Toronto plant market and native plant supply is one business providing what gardeners and their local ecosystems need this spring. Native plants have evolved over centuries alongside all the other flora and fauna in one region, said Mark Johnson, an ecologist at the University of Toronto. The plants and animals from a community work together to thrive and protect themselves from threats. Johnson cited tulips and daffodils, staples of the springtime, as examples of non-native plants with zero positive impacts on our ecosystem. Non-native plants aren't a part of the local ecosystem, so they don't work together with the rest of it. Some are invasive, killing off other plants by hogging resources. Others may not provide suitable food for native animals and insects, contributing to declining insect populations. Johnson urged gardeners to use native plants to create a small little national park in their yard. Try to increase the diversity of species in a little patch you have control over, and you will have a positive impact even on that small scale. But Mancourt said native plants aren't easy to come by many garden centers. In the U.S., native plants represented just 9.1% of total plant sales in 2018, according to the 2019 National Green Industry Survey. It's a popularity contest, said Mancourt. People only want what they're familiar with, and it's a profit game in these stores. They're not there to promote ecological diversity. They're there to make money. Jonas Spring first turned to native plants as a practicality. Spring is a landscaper based in Toronto, where urbanization makes soils drier. There are fewer trees and it's warmer. Toronto and Tokyo have more similar environments than Toronto and rural Ontario, according to Johnson. Native North American plants that grow on cliffsides like pussy toes and bearberry can be incorporated into the urban world more easily than those that need nutrient-rich soil. Spring has been happily growing his own plants and working with mom-and-pop nurseries for 20 years when he came across what he called a landscaper's unicorn. It was a refurbished greenhouse from the 1980s, complete with a yard and attached office space, right in the heart of industrial Etobicoke, northwest of downtown Toronto. Spring established the Toronto Plant Market and Native Plant Supply in 2022. He's grown the business every year and now offers more than 100 species of native plants. Some gardeners come from as far away as Niagara to find a hard-to-find species like the Canada yew, Taxus canadensis. It's been a really wonderful response from the community, he said. Spring organizes all those plants by the environment you'll grow them in. Woodland understory, plants like running strawberry grow best in the shade and dry soil, so they will thrive under the tree outside the average suburban house. Hardscape plants can grow on balconies, roofs, driveways, and parking lots, anywhere there are people in stone and concrete. Mancourt appreciates all the work Spring and his team do. When he visited the Toronto Plant Market this year, Mancourt posted about it on TikTok. Spring is trying to build more knowledge around native plants and making sure they're on offer and making sure that what he's offering are suitable for the conditions in Toronto, he said. His goal this season is to use 70% of his garden for native plants. Through gardening, you realize that there's a greater purpose, Mancourt said. Obviously, I'm having fun. I'm growing things. I'm bringing in insects that my child loves. And that's exciting, but it's also about trying to do good in the world, in your little life, and trying to have fun at the same time. So I just thought it was a great way just to mention and promote, talk about people that are doing good. Obviously, 50,000 followers on TikTok. He's no slouch.
Yeah.
People are interested in highlighting people doing good work and where he can get them. And it sounds like, I like that he's actually at the garden center breaking it down so that customers can be successful. Like if this is your environment, this is what will work for you. Let's break it down. And for all the right reasons. It was a very positive response.
Yeah.
And I just like to see it, especially for regardless of where it's at. It's nice to see that kind of work done. So
yeah, no, that's definitely a good feel good story and kind of just highlights how this is happening in another part of the world.
And if any of our listeners are in the Toronto area and you've been there or you can go there, let us know what you think. We'd be interested to hear your feedback about that garden center. It does sound like a little oasis coming across a greenhouse and an office where you can do good work like that. It just sounds very promising. So and we could all use more places like that.
Stay tuned for more of the Native Plants Healthy Planet podcast, presented by Pinelands Nursery.
I love that our listeners are discovering TrueBlew Natives.
Yeah, no, it's awesome to see the pictures that are showing up in the Facebook group where people have heard this spot and then they go and say, hey, I found this in my garden center, and now I know a little bit more about it.
Yeah, and I know they're going on the website. They're learning more about the line itself, and we're very pumped about it, even from a standpoint that this is so good for the person that says, I can't find native plants in a garden center near me.
Yeah.
And this is fixing that problem.
Yeah, and not just in the Mid-Atlantic, but really across the whole East Coast. You can find TrueBlew Natives in a garden center probably pretty close to you.
And you'll hear next week, because next week our guest on the podcast is Bob Blue from Centerton Nurseries. They're truly committed to doing this the right way, and they're working with many growers across the country to make sure they're getting local ecotype plant material and the right material in the right area.
Yeah, so they're trying to scale things up in the Southeast and even like the Midwest, and working with growers in those regions to provide them with plants that are seed grown from those areas. Yeah. So really cool to hear.
So it's not just, you're not just getting native plants thrown out there where you can find them and they're accessible. It's native plants the way that you were hoping to find them. And it's not just based on flower. It's not just based on what looks pretty. You're going to get things that look incredible. They're garden center quality plant material, but it's also the functionality. You're going to find things if you have a wet spot in your yard and you want to naturalize it, you're going to find the right plants to naturalize. It's not just beauty, it's function as well. And it's one of the things I love about this line.
Yeah, and they have big goals to expand this even further, which is awesome to hear. They want to provide more native plants for more parts of the country. So really, really exciting times with TrueBlew Natives.
I think right now there's 70 species available. Their original goal was to increase that to 100 by next year. I think they've actually increased their goal to increasing it to 150 total different native plants.
Which is awesome.
Yeah,
awesome.
And there's a ton of fantastic plants already in that line. So if you go to their website, which is truebluenative.com, and that's TrueBlew is the line. The website is bluelabel.com, BLEWLABEL.com. And you click on the TrueBlew line. You can see what they grow. You can also, there's a retail finder. You'd be amazed how many garden centers may be near you that carry these plants. And if they don't have what you're looking for, ask them. They're already doing business with Blue Label plants, so they can bring that in for you.
Yeah, so you're going to hear more from Bobby about TrueBlew Natives next week, but if you can't wait, go to www.bluelabel.com. That is BLEWLABEL.com for more information, so you can find that right now.
Welcome back to the Native Plants Healthy Planet podcast, presented by Pinelands Nursery.
So,
what do you got this week?
My article is actually from NOAA.gov.
I may be drunk by the time
Fran, there
read
was
the article.
What, a finger and a half?
I haven't had anything to eat today.
Oh, okay.
At all.
Right. Excuses. So, it was on NOAA.gov, and it is a little bit of what am I trying to say? Current events and politics.
I know
what's going on, and the title is Biden-Harris administration announces $123 million for coastal habitat restoration through Investing in America agenda. And I'll read some and then give my thoughts at the end.
All right, awesome.
So today, Assistant to the President for Science and Technology and Director of the White House Office of Science and Technology Policy, Arati Prabhakar, and Assistant Secretary of Commerce for Oceans and Atmosphere, and the Deputy NOAA Administrator Janie K. Bavishi visited Scarborough, Maine to announce the recommendation of $123 million in funding across state and territorial coastal management programs and national estuarine research reserves. The funding will support habitat restoration and conservation as part of President Biden's Investing in America agenda. President Biden's bipartisan infrastructure law and Inflation Reduction Act together investing more than $50 billion, that's billion with a B, in climate resilience and adaptation. Today's announcement, funded by the historic legislation, will allow NOAA to build on the important work done by states and territories over the last 50 years to conserve and manage our nation's coastal areas and conduct long-term research to better understand the function of our estuaries. The Commerce Department and entire Biden-Harris administration are committed to ensuring coastal communities across the country have resources they need to combat climate change, said U.S. Secretary of Commerce Gina Raimondo. Through their investment made possible thanks to the President Biden's commitment to investing in America, we'll be able to protect critical resources for coastal habitat restoration, create new jobs, and boost resilience to extreme weather events across our coastal communities. America's coastal communities are on the front lines of climate change, and we can tap into the power of nature to reduce the impacts of sea level rise, storms, and erosion, said Brabhacker. Through President Biden's Investing in America agenda, we are taking historic action to meet the climate crisis and build a more resilient future for all. The recommended funds will support $59.8 million for state and territory coastal zone management programs for 22 projects, $15 million for natural estuarine research reserves for 8 projects. Within this $75 million investment, $36 million will be designated for projects being carried out in partnership with or directly by tribes and Native Hawaiians, including reacquisitions and restoration of ecological and culturally significant ancestral lands. This funding will also leverage $48 million in non-competitive funding to the 34 state and territorial coastal management programs and 30 national estuarine research reserves for essential planning, policy development and implementation, collaboration, engagement, and implementation of adaptation strategies. There's a lot of shuns in there to help increase the resilience of coastal communities and their economies. These recommended projects aim to increase community resilience to climate change and extreme weather events through habitat restoration and planning, engineering and design, and ecosystem conservation. These transformational I'm not getting that word right. These transformational projects will not only bolster community resilience, but also ensure the innovations are fairly and broadly accessible, says Janie K. Bavishi, Assistant Secretary of Commerce for Oceans and Atmosphere and Deputy NOAA Administrator. This significant increase in resources from NOAA will be essential to helping to build local infrastructure that is climate resilient while providing essential benefits to businesses. These investments will complement and leverage other opportunities for habitat conservation and restoration, including funding through NOAA's Community-Based Restoration Program and the National Oceans and Coastal Security Fund. The restoration and conservation of conservation of ecologically significant ecosystems, such as wetlands, corals, and natural shoreline, will help reduce the impacts of coastal hazards, including flooding and climate change. I am really tongue-twistering myself here. To property and infrastructure, and at the same time provide economic benefits to coastal communities. So this is, in my opinion, clearly good news. Yeah. It's something we've been talking about a lot. It's the backbone of our nursery's business. So this is something that gets me really excited because it's we get to grow a lot of plants.
I mean, a little over a week ago, you and I went to the Society of American Military Engineers, and they were talking about a lot of these surveys and the projects for coastal resiliency and climate change and how it affects the New York City, New Jersey area and what they're doing about it and all the work. And it was very cool to see all the thought and effort and money going towards that, because that's a huge driver of those communities. Mm-hmm. But not just that economically, it's the people that live there and being able to target, we need to fix these because these areas are at risk.
Yeah. Yep, exactly. So if you're in a coastal area, this may be something you see in action over the next couple of years as these projects start to roll out and one get awarded and then start to go into the build out phase. And a lot of times there is a component of what's the word I'm looking for? A way for people to interact with these environments. So whether it's walking trails or boardwalks or something so that people can go out and participate in birding activities or fishing or those kind of things. So if you're in one of these areas, you may be a beneficiary of these build outs in addition to the environment being a beneficiary.
I'm hopeful. I know it was during Obama's presidency after Hurricane Sandy that with the infrastructure bill, and there was a lot of money that was being designated to NOAA for shovel-ready projects that kind of like as the economy went bad, kind of got pulled back. Mm-hmm. So I'm hopeful that this stays. I know we're getting close to a change in presidency or a possible change in presidency. So you hope that this is something that kind of hopefully flows through and doesn't get pulled back at some point.
Yep.
So I'm very, very encouraged. This is really good work and very important work. Like every time we go to one of these conferences and we talk about, or we hear the talks about sea level rise and climate change, it's not something that's far off in the future. It's something that you get that sense of urgency and how big of a deal it is. So I'm glad that the money's getting pushed towards it because it's important.
Yeah. Yep,
it's only going to get worse. So I don't think it's going to get any better. So did you have?
No, that was it.
Okay. 2 fantastic articles. And on Monday on the Facebook group, we will post the poll. And that's where you get to go and vote because.
And of course, the choice is yours.
What do you think? You want to do listener shout outs?
Yep, let's do it.
All right.
Listener, shout out.
They've definitely slowed down since we're not giving anything away. I'm going to go first because you still have more than I do. Just looking real quick. I just wanted to give a quick shout out to Amy Ordog thank you for being a loyal listener and for being supportive and helping promote our podcast. And also wanted to say thank you for Bill Stusnick for voting for me this week. I got a big vote out of Bill. So thank you.
I know that's one you take personally, Fran.
I don't take it personally. It's fun to track
all the comments Fran makes behind the scenes. It's like,
but he was right. He
Bill never votes for me.
He does vote for me. So he gave me a vote of confidence this week. And so I just wanted to point it out.
And we mentioned Bill and his wife. I think it was the last Buzz episode.
We did
about some of the stuff that they're doing through Garden Clubs for America and promoting.
And Bill, and I apologize, I can't remember Bill's wife's name, but she posted in the Facebook group some more information about it and thanked us for the shout out. So we're always happy to promote anyone doing fantastic work. So awesome. Who do you got this week?
All right, we have Light Tonations on Spotify on our Buzz Saving for the Future. Said it was a great episode. Is this all the same one, Fran? With Christy B here? Or is that a different person?
I don't know. That looks weird. Like it got...
Yeah. Well, Christy B may be Light Tonations. Yeah. She may be someone different.
No, I think...
and they have...
Oh, no. I think it's... No, it's all that one thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but they were writing that cut flower farmers have a special Sharpie-type marker that lasts, and they love the podcast and learning about native plants. Awesome. So I need to learn about this Sharpie that they have, this special Sharpie, because I haven't found it. We had O'Dial on Spotify in the Buzzing About Cultivars episode, which was a long time ago, right?
That was one of the first, not the first buzz, but probably like within the first 10 buzzes that we did.
And they said that they would buy a Native Plants Healthy Planet baseball cap.
Is it?
Which I believe there is. I don't remember what I made. There are baseball caps. I don't know if they say Native Plants Healthy Planet.
I think they say
there's one that says Plant Nerd on it, or Native Plant Nerd.
I know you made
we keep getting hit up for copyright infringement on that, but I don't. It doesn't say what it is or where it is. I can't find it anywhere.
I know we had the winter beanies that said Native Plant Healthy Planet Podcast, but because it said presented by Pinelands Nursery, I think I bought the only one before it got removed because it couldn't print the presented by Pinelands Nursery because it was so small, and that may have happened with the hat too.
Yeah, I shouldn't say copyright infringement. I'll get a notice saying something's amiss with this, and can you approve it being printed a different way? Usually they just take out the small print, and then it should repost the thing. But there's like with the Native Plant Nerd one in particular, I get a different error message, and I have to confirm that it's like a phrase that we use, and I don't know how to do that.
Oh, interesting.
But there are a handful of people out there with Native Plant Nerd hats and shirts. Yeah. I don't know if they're still on the website or not. I haven't looked to see if
there will be more merch coming this year. We probably, especially with the change in logo, there's going to be more merch, but it's probably going to be over the summer.
Yeah.
When we have time.
I found the way. I think I'd say on our next episode. I found the way to invite others to join the team and design things, which I didn't know how to do, but. I've been saying it for a while. We have a literal, clothing designer on staff, doing a different role now, but had in a past life had been a clothing designer. Why am I not letting her use the
top name?
This?
Like you would know the name.
Okay. Then we had Brad Mudd. I wonder who that is. Said 2 thumbs up as usual on the Birdsong Landscapes episode. Janine Perry on the American Beauties episode. said it was a great episode, and she sees these plants in her local garden center and now understands where they come from and how native plant availability is a lot easier in the last 5 years. I think you'll like our next episode.
Yeah, definitely.
And you guys have heard some of our what am I trying to say? TrueBlew advertisements we've been recording, and good family, good nursery, and transitioning in native plants. So our next episode actually
it's really
features
good
them.
Episode. Good
so
people.
Kind of
and
talks about that transition and what they're trying to do.
Great episode. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. So we appreciate all the feedback from everyone. It's like I said, when we're not giving something away, it has slowed down a little bit. So
yeah. And I know there's some folks I met in person over the last few weeks, but I am blanking on anyone, and I don't have I had it written down somewhere else, but not in front of me. But yeah, I had some other folks I want to give shout outs to, but I've been waking up super early lately, and I don't remember who.
It's been crazy.
Who it is. Yeah.
It's been really crazy. I'm double checking. I don't think I have any questions this week. I'm just looking to see if there was anything. No, nothing new. No one's called in. I do have a very short and quick grow read a book.
Okay.
Grow, read a book. I like books.
I love that intro. That's probably like my favorite intro that we have. So I had recommended to me at a conference that I attended for work the book North Woods by Daniel Mason, which was a runner-up for the Pulitzer Prize last year and one of the New York Times top 10 bestsellers. I wasn't aware of this book, so like the person was like, "Oh my God, you definitely have to read this. I think you would enjoy it." So, Tom, I really think it's something that you enjoy. So it is a work of fiction, and it's done in the style of I believe I'm pronouncing this correct, polyphony, which is it's a story of woods in Western Massachusetts as told by many different people over the course of time. So it starts back during Puritan times all the way up to present day. And it's done so well. Some of it's fun. Like there's a lot of humor. There's a lot of really, I don't want to say creepy, interesting things, but it's a good reminder that nature can be cruel. For all the beauty, nature can be cruel. And it kind of mirrors how life can be cruel for humans as well, and human interaction and how it's changed. But the author does a really good job at explaining how the landscape changes over time and what you might have seen in the 1500s compared to what you would see today, and how weeds got here in certain plant introductions, and how chestnut blight occurred in the area, and how Dutch Elm's disease happened, and some of these other things, and how certain invasives showed up and why it changed. And it's kind of a way of looking at succession in life as comparing it to like a patch of forest. Like you have that, you know, how the conditions changed. They got better. They got worse. The people came and went. Like it changed. You know, at one point it gets used as an apple orchard. It gets used as a pasture. It gets open for different areas, and it's just the change over time, and it kind of explains what will happen in the future. Yeah, past today's date over the next couple hundred years, and it's a very good story that weaves everything together and makes it very interesting. Like I said, very funny, very intense in some points, and I don't want to say too much more and give it away. It's one of those books that I honestly, it's one of the best books I've ever read. Yeah. So I liked it that much. So if you get a chance and you haven't read it, I had to wait. I know Christiane in our office tried to put it on hold through the local county library. I think she said she was 81st in line.
Holy smokes. Is she trying to read it or listen to it?
Read it.
Okay.
Read it. So in my county, I was like 18th.
Yeah.
But I still got it within. They had enough copies that I only waited like 2 or 3 weeks. Yeah.
Well, I feel lucky then, because I was going to say, you told me about the book. I put it on hold as an audiobook through Libby with our county library, and I was just checking, and I'm expected to receive it in 11 weeks, and I am currently 12th in line. I started 13th, so I've only moved up one place since then.
I wasn't as fast reading as I typically am, but I think it took me 3 weeks. Like I read it without extending my keeping it out. So. But it's a beautifully done book, and even though it's a work of fiction, when it comes to the plant and botanical aspect, and the wildlife aspect, there was a lot of detail, a lot of fact checking, like a lot of really good work done. So it was kind of cool. Even if you don't do it for the love of native plants, you learn a lot about, they talk about the carrier pigeons and what it would have been like then and what happened now and why these things changed, not just that they changed. But, it was interesting. One of the things, I can't remember which weed it was that came here, but they talk about it, the seeds being in the ballast of a ship. And then the ballast being taken out and put down, and then how it spreads from the seaport in Boston across Massachusetts. So, very cool book. I really recommend it. I had posted it on social media, and a lot of our listeners, like when I first got it, and they're like, "You're going to love this book." So I know a lot of our listeners have already read it. But if you get a chance, definitely pick it up and give it a good listen.
Definitely, yeah. I haven't been reading as much for. I guess I haven't been reading as much things that would be pertinent to the podcast lately.
Did you read Killers of the Flower Moon? Or was it just the What was it? The Lost City of Z?
I did Lost City of Z. I did Killers of the Flower Moon.
I just started.
There's another book by that author. What's it? Daniel Gran. And I can't remember what it's called, but it's about a ship that is traveling around. What's the Cape in South America? Cape Horn is Africa. Is it Cape of Good Hope? I don't remember. But they're going that way, and they basically, there's a fleet, and the one boat kind of shipwrecks basically, and it covers the journey of really interesting and true story. So when they shipwreck, they're on land. A lot of the crew mutinies and leaves the captain and a handful of people there. And then they take like one of the smaller boats to try and go back around.
Okay.
They make it through a bunch of stops. They make it all the way back to England and say, oh yeah, everyone died except we're the only survivors, even though they left like a whole bunch of people there. And, an even smaller, like tied together boat, the captain and the handful of people who are left also make it back to England. Like they make a couple stops to change ships. They also make it back to England like 4 years later after this is like kind of all settled out. And they're like, those guys are lying. Those guys lied because we're still alive and they mutinied. And then it goes to the whole like naval proceedings of how it goes. Really, really fascinating story. Awesome. But yeah, both of them are
I just started reading Killers of the Flower Moon. I'm maybe 30 pages in, but I saw the movie first. I'm enjoying the book much more.
Yeah.
Because I love the telling of the book, and like going back and thinking about the movie, there were so many things that you're watching, but you don't really understand because they don't explain it. So now that I'm reading, I'm like, oh, that all makes sense now.
That was a comment I made my wife after, because I read the book, then watched the movie. And I said to her, I'm like, if I hadn't read the book, I feel like I would have no clue what's going on. Yeah. But the movie was critically acclaimed, up for all these awards at the time. And so people loved it, but I don't think everyone understands like everything that's happening. It's just the action, and they see a little bit of it.
When they go through like investigating the death of Molly's sister in the ravine, like they never really explain why it's done that way. But in the book, they're like, oh yeah, this is pre-police. You know, you got to remember like the justice of the peace would pick a jury out of observers that were there, and they had to solve, you know, but they didn't really explain that. I don't think in the movie they ever explain what the flower killing moon is. Yeah. Which is, they tell you, I think in the first 5 pages of the book, which is the May moon, which is big and low. Yep. It's the time of the year where the trees leaf out and kill the ephemerals that are blooming in the forest because he shaded out, and it's the time where the ephemerals start to go away. Yeah. So, and they call that the flower killing moon, which I thought was interesting, but they never really discussed that in the movie. At least not that I remember. It's a 3.5 hour movie. Oh yeah, I'm not going to remember it. But still, great movie. Yeah, better book. And every book I've read by that author has been good. Yeah, I've been reading. I heard they had the author on actually for the Killers of the Flower Moon series, or that book too. Was on the Meteor podcast. They had another guy on called CJ Box, who wrote a book or series. He writes kind of like series books,
but it's about this a Wyoming game warden, and like some of the stuff that's going on there, but it ties into like endangered species, and there's murder, and like it's an easy read, like easy, well, for me, listening experience where you don't have to. It's not like it's
you have to
serious,
stop and think about it.
Like, but they have like a whole endangered species aspect in the first one, and the second book is about like environmental protesters and the lengths they go to, and it's the whole concept of you have people on the coasts or in the cities trying to dictate what's happening.
Yeah.
You look at like wolf reintroductions in Colorado is a great example where you have the people who live where the wolves are going to go say, we don't want any wolves. Like our livelihood is on ranching and the outdoors. We don't want wolves because they're going to impact our way of life. And then you have the people in Denver saying, oh, wolves, let's have wolves, because they're picturing. You kind of brought up before about nature, and we talked about on, I think, a different episode, how there's this idea that nature is balanced and like ideal and perfect, when nature is really like chaotic and cruel, which makes it appear balanced.
Yeah.
It's like you look at like wolves eat things, and sometimes that's how they live.
In this,
but it's brutal. I was even thinking about it with through listening to these books, because there's like a grizzly bear aspect or wolf aspect. Like, we're probably one of the few species that kills what we're going to eat before we eat it. You look at like lions in the savannah, they just incapacitate it, but it's not necessarily dead when they start eating it. And how horrible that must be to be alive, have the sensations of pain, and have like teeth and claws ripping into you, and you just can't, you have to take it and not do anything.
Yeah.
How, like, it's just something we as people almost, I can't imagine getting to experience. I'm sure there are experiences like that, car crashes, those kind of things. Yeah. But very few of us experience that kind of thing, and it makes us more removed, so we don't think about it.
So part of Northwoods, they follow the story of I guess the old term for a panther or a bobcat was catamount. Yeah. So it follows like a catamount, like kind of through time a little bit, or the story, like it's wolves and things like that. But it's how all these animals interact with the area as well as humans. So it's a really cool concept, very cool concept. So it was there's stuff that happens in the book that couldn't possibly happen in real life. Yeah. But a lot of it's based on like factual science too. So it's interesting how he weaves that stories together and how everyone ties together over the centuries. Yeah.
No, I'm looking forward to getting to it. So, because I've heard lots of good things about it.
Oh, it's awesome. It's awesome. So yeah, if you get a chance to read that book, I definitely recommend that one.
Stay tuned for more of the Native Plants Healthy Planet podcast, presented by Pinelands Nursery. Welcome back to the Native Plants Healthy Planet podcast, presented by Pinelands Nursery.
You want to do take it or leave it? I know last one we kind of skipped, and I know we're trying to keep this to an hour this time. We're doing pretty good. We're at like 45 minutes. So I left a link for you to look it up. And this popped up in my social media feed. I've had a couple interesting things show up in my social media feed, and this is one.
I'm leafing it right now.
Yeah, I'm leafing it too. So it's an invention called the bee cup, and they're little plastic cups that you put in your gardens that you can fill with waters for pollinators to get drinks. And like my first thought was, if you're planting the right plants, they're performing that function. Yeah. Like they're holding water for pollinators to get water. And they're small, so it's not, I don't think you have to worry about, like, I'm not worried about mosquitoes breeding or anything like that. I'm just thinking it's one of those things that if you're not cleaning it and emptying it and filling it up, it's just going to create an issue, kind of like if you don't take care of a bird bath.
Well, even on their frequently asked questions, Fran, it says, do bee cups attract mosquitoes? Bee cups only hold a teaspoon of water. In most climates, the water evaporates by the end of the day to prevent mosquitoes.
Okay.
How do I clean my bee cups?
So you're filling
all
them,
the answers are here.
So you're filling them every day. So Is it necessary if you have the right plants in your garden to do that?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea. I'm not.
Yeah,
I'm not saying this is a horrible creation. I don't mean that at all.
Yes, I think it does serve a purpose.
And maybe in an area, if say you have a patio garden and everything's in containers, probably a good addition if you're trying to attract pollinators.
Yeah. Here's another question: how does chlorinated water affect bees? Like if you have your city water and it's got the microdose of chlorine in it to sanitize it.
It's interesting now that I have a hot tub.
That'll kill your fish.
Like you have a hot tub, you fill it up, and then you check the levels before you add anything. And I'm like, oh, chlorine content is pretty noticeable.
Yeah, yeah. So I think it's an interesting idea.
Yeah,
because it adds like from a decorative standpoint.
Yeah,
because it comes in all different cool colors. They're kind of like a cool shape.
And like I said, if you have like a patio garden, maybe that's a good addition, or like a window, like a window box. Maybe that's a good addition. I don't think I need it in my garden.
Yeah. Yeah. If it's more of an ornament or decoration than an ecological functioning thing.
I'm not bashing it, but I'm probably never buying it.
Sounds like you're bashing it, Fran.
Oh, really?
No. No, I think it's I think it's a unique thing, but it's more decorative than.
I think it has a purpose for a certain demographic, but I don't think it's something I would purchase.
So
I'm just thinking.
I think of different places.
Yeah, I think of leaves holding water, like if you're watering your plants or after a rain, there's ways to capture water and have it on your property to do that. I don't think it's a bad thing. I just thought that it's one of those things where I think I don't know if anyone would evaluate my property and say what you're missing is a water source for pollinators.
Well, water sources for pollinators are important.
Yeah, I'm not saying they're not.
Yeah.
I'm not insinuating that. All right, are you definitely you said you're leafing it?
Yeah,
right away.
I wouldn't use them because I'm not as concerned about the decorative value.
Okay.
But I think if you're where I envision them is people who love to garden. Like I garden, but I don't love to garden. I'm trying to build a garden where I don't have to go into it. But for people who love to garden, they love to observe the garden. It adds like a little bit of decorative value. It is doing something ecologically. In addition,
it's serving a purpose. It's not just decorative.
It's serving a purpose in addition.
It's probably
I could see people liking these.
It's more functional than a garden gnome.
Not me. Yeah. What's a garden gnome going to do? It's a little. Yeah, maybe the garden gnome can hold the bee cup.
All right, so I have speaking of gardens, I'll share this. It's a little off topic. I'm just looking at time. We have a little bit of time. So I caged in all the native shrubs on my property. I caged in 20 shrubs. And I have some that are starting to come over the top, and things like elderberry that's starting to colonize and sucker up, which aren't in cages. Mm-hmm. And the deer are coming all the way up to the house. They've eaten back my black-eyed or orange coneflower. They're eating back all the shoots of the elderberry. They're eating the top of the elderberry that's sticking out of the cage. Mm-hmm. So I went through and hung some bars of ivory soap every couple plants to try to keep them away. And I've noticed that, you can get 2 bars of ivory soap for $1 at the Dollar Tree, or $1.25, I guess. So I haven't seen any damage since I put the ivory soap out. But I had an area where I had some container pots, and I put 1 bar just on a brick by the container pots from stuff that I potted up last year for a garden we had to dig out. And then I put one on a tie by another garden where they were eating the orange coneflower. Something took both bars of soap that were just laying flat.
Well, you do have, you see them on your Ring doorbell all the time. People coming up to the door.
Then backyard.
Vagrants.
Backyard. Backyard.
It could be.
Now, I did find one of the bars in soap at the bottom end of the property with some bites out of the corners, and it was clawed. Like you could see something was like standing on it and clawing into it while trying to eat it, and then realized, oh, this isn't any good. But they took it and dragged it across the yard to try it. So I don't know. like I've seen fox in my backyard. I've seen raccoons, groundhogs. So I'm not quite sure what would do that, but never heard of any animals eating bars of soap or trying to eat bars of soap before.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
Thought that was interesting. Especially pungent, something pungent like ivory spray.
Yeah.
Although I heard, like, from looking it up, many people say that because that's so pungent, it's the best bang for the buck, even over soaps that are made to keep deer away. They said that they've had really good success with it.
We've used it.
Yeah.
My dad does ivory soap, or not ivory soap, Irish spring soap.
Yeah.
Cut in quarters, wrapped in a dryer sheet. And that's
Is
what
that what's because the dryer sheets are scented also?
Yeah, and that's what he finds keeps deer away.
I didn't even think about the dryer sheets. That's another good means if you've never done that before. But I think that's a good shot.
So, I remembered one of my listener shout outs.
Oh God,
we had, and this is I'm gonna give it its own shine here.
All right, awesome.
Curtis Honeycutt, we've talked about him a lot.
Yeah.
In our Facebook group, has made a native plant playlist.
Yeah.
Called Native Plants Are My Jam. And I actually was looking for one of these, just saying someone has had to have done this already. We talked about the native plant band before.
Yeah, he messaged me the other day, and I'm like, I think we talked about them like a year ago or a year and a half. Like when we were doing the native
someone
plant
shared
anthem.
them with us.
Yeah, when we were doing the native plant anthem.
Sage Against the Machine is that band.
And I guess they have a new album out.
Really? I
Well,
didn't know
their
that.
only album was a live album. I guess they put a studio album out.
Okay, cool.
Let me see, actually.
And I didn't realize there were this many songs with plant names in them. Like
It's kind of crazy, isn't it?
yeah, and by relatively big artists like Iron and Wine and Lana Del Rey. Completely different spectrums there for Iron and Wine and Lana Del Rey. But you had a country musician I'm looking for. Miranda Lambert had Virginia Bluebell, Willie Nelson. So yeah, there's a song Penstemon, Geranium, Milkweed, Hackberry, Save the Bees Please, Lobelia, White Oak.
Nice.
All kinds of good songs on here. So I'm going to take a listen later.
Iris by Live on there?
No, but he has a song called Like a Bradford Pear.
Oh, wow.
So.
All right, so I just looked it up. Sage Against the Machine just put out their first studio album called Beautiful Day in the Chaparral.
Yeah.
6 songs. They're entitled Connected, Storming the Chaparral, Jessica's Song, Beautiful Day in the Chaparral, Baby, I'm a Botanist, and Super Bloom. You think we could get away with playing like a snippet?
I don't know.
They would probably like the exposure. I don't think we're going to get
I
a
was
cease and
going to
desist.
say we should probably maybe even try and have them on at some
All right.
point.
All right, listen. I'm gonna try to just
One of my songs I like sing all the time is they have a song called California Poppy Chulo, and it just pops in my head randomly after I heard it.
All right.
Sing it.
I'm going to play a snippet of Baby,
Okay.
I'm a Botanist. Ready? Pause it for a second. It's a 10-minute song.
Okay, I was going to say this is a long intro.
It is a long.
There's not an instrumental.
I'm gonna skip forward a little bit just so we don't
Yeah.
get in any trouble. Let me see.
And the third says, loud and proud, that baby, oh, baby, I'm a botanist. Oh, baby, I'm a botanist.
All right, there you go.
It's a vibe.
It is a vibe. That's a definite, like, they're working that groove. 10 minutes of that, like, I could totally. It's like Dazed and Confused for the modern native plant fan.
Yeah.
So
I think we're going to do big things.
I do too. I do too. I hope they appreciate the shout out of that. So check out Sage Against the Machine if you haven't already checked them out. So listen, I'm just looking at time. We're going to wrap this up in an hour, which we never do.
Oh, yeah. We always say to.
How did we do it this time and not like all the other
Fran said
time?
to me, it was about 2:30, 2:25.
Yes.
Fran says, looking at the time, do you want to do this tomorrow morning? And I'm like, no, we're going to keep it to an hour. We're going to do it right now.
We never do.
Because there's no way I'm going to be able to do it tomorrow morning.
How did we do it this time, but we never, ever do it?
I think a lot of times I'll sit down and say, we're going to keep this one short, and then I start going off on strange tangents, and I kept myself in check this time.
We did good. We did good. Hopefully there's enough good content. I think we did a much tighter, compacted show than normal. A lot less rambling. So,
all right. Well, that's going to wrap us up for today. Thank you, everyone, for joining us and listening to this Buzz episode of Native Plants Healthy Planet presented by Pinelands Nursery. We hope you enjoyed it.
Speaking of thank yous, big thank you to RJ Comer for our Buzz intro theme music. Make sure you stream or buy RJ's music on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you consume your music. And also a huge thank you to Dave Bennett for our Native Plant Anthem. You know, I know it's buried at the back. It doesn't always get the love, but I love that song. So I hope everyone listens to it as it fades out. You can follow us on Twitter at Pineland Nursery, Facebook at Pinelands Nursery NJ, Instagram at Native Plants _Healthy Planet, also YouTube at Pinelands Nursery. You can call us at 215-346-6189. I will repeat that, 215-346-6189. That's our question and comment line, and you can leave a question, or you can ask a question or leave a comment. We'll do our best to play it on a future episode of The Buzz, and the Native Plants Healthy Planet Facebook group has been a lot of fun. Not that it isn't, but everyone's been very active. It's spring, so you can tell everyone's kind of checking in, and we've seen some names we haven't seen in a while and some good conversation. So I appreciate everyone kind of checking in and hanging out with us. So you can buy Native Plants Healthy Planet merch at our website, www.nativeplantshealthyplanet.com. There's a link right at the top. It takes you to our Teespring store. Like we've mentioned earlier, going to be some new designs up there. Now that we got the clothing designer on board, and she can actually do her job instead of me gatekeeping like I had been. You can, and we don't keep any of the profits from those T-shirt sales. The costs go to the vendor. All the profits go into a PayPal account, and then when they reach critical mass, we say, "Hey, organization that is doing really good stuff, would you like a little bit of money?" Because we'll give it to you instead. And they would say yes. And they typically say yes. I don't know if anyone said no. No one has said no. We've only done it like 5 times. Yeah. So so that's one way you can look real great in your garden gear. Or whether you're going to a backyard barbecue and you want to promote native plants, that's one way to do it. You want to know what I was going to bring up, Fran? What's that? I know we're in like the outro now. Yeah. I want to do this as a topic. Do you think it's too late for like 5 minutes of a topic? Sure. What do you want to do? Alyssa Lewis put in the Facebook group about No Mow May. Yes. And Kevin Moriarty had posted some stuff about it too in other groups as well. And I think I'd like to make a statement on my feelings on No Mow May. Now there's May again, and I've done it the last like 3 years. I don't think this is going to be a 5-minute topic. Oh, we can make it 5 minutes. We can make it short. Okay. All right. We'll be done. Yeah, we'll be done. All right. Within 8 minutes for sure. All right. We're at 59 minutes right now. Basically, it's not that No Mow May is a bad thing. No Mow May is a good thing. It just has people think it's being more impactful than it is. Yeah. Because one of the replies to Alyssa Lewis, one of them was saying, "Oh, are you looking for confirmation bias?" Which I don't think she is. I think she knows that No Mow May is helpful, but not helpful enough, and can kind of be detrimental if the conditions aren't right. So she's looking for. I have friends that want to do No Mow May. They think they're doing something really beneficial when this is minorly beneficial, and I want to say, hey, if you really want to help, you should be doing this instead. Yeah. It'll actually be less work. You're not going to get complaints from your neighbors, and you're making a big difference versus thinking you're making a big difference when you're making a relatively small difference. And then one of the other comments in there was kind of geared about that. Was okay, yeah, No Mow May is like, what is it actually doing? And that's kind of how I feel. Is I've done it. I didn't do it all out. I tried a couple spots, just say, hey, what's going to come up? Like, because I know dandelions are going to come up. Overstated pollinator benefit with dandelions. Yeah. Do they help?
some things, but not a lot. You have purple dead nettle. You have what's the Star of Bethlehem.
That's what comes up in my yard immediately.
So that's an invasive plant.
Yeah.
And I shouldn't say it wasn't there, but I couldn't find a single native plant that had like benefits. Or I should rephrase it. I couldn't find a single native plant that came up there. Was there some flowers? Sure. Was it better for pollinators than all grass? Maybe. Was there stuff that could have negative repercussions because it's going to spread even more? Yes, definitely. So, and I think people hear this no-mow man and say, man, I don't have to mow and I'm going to help save the pollinators? Like, and I'll make this major contribution? I'm on board. And they're thinking they're making these huge strides and doing this great thing for pollinators, when realistically it's a minor benefit to pollinators and the ecosystem. I would even go as far as to say that the not mowing and using the fuel and spilling gas and all that is probably more beneficial than the pollinator benefit.
Yeah. When you talk, like when we had Owen Wormser on, he talked about that the amount of spills filling lawnmowers and blowers and weed whackers throughout the course of the year is worse than the combined Exxon Valdez spill.
Yeah.
You know, if you look at it that respect, you know, I'm just looking online, like our listener and friend Roz from My Backyard at Nectar's, she did a post today in her Facebook group for that, just saying if we didn't mow for the entire month of May, quite a few things would be on the line. Spring blooming lawn substitutes like spring beauties or violets could easily disappear by being shaded out by the grass and not having the ability to grow. Any perennials I planted could get outgrown if we let the grass grow, and our mower wouldn't be able to handle not mowing for the month. And she's calling it May Meadow Mania, where you can add to the meadow, like dedicate an area where you can keep adding to it, that you can allow that to occur naturally and do a lot more benefits.
Yeah, and that's kind of and I don't know what, if you actually did the math behind it, I don't know what the equation would be. But my estimation would be if you took definitely a 10 by 10 plot, I'd probably even say a 5 by 5 plot, so 25 square feet, and just loaded it with native plants. Spent probably like $100 tops. You could have something really amazing for pollinators that would way more benefit than not mowing your whole third of an acre or acre or 5 acre lawn, whatever it is. Like, I've seen Kyle Leibarger he's put up posts about it, and he's got really good stuff coming up in his lawn. He's got blue-eyed grass and all kinds of really cool beneficial things. Yeah. That's not happening in my lawn. I don't think it's happening in most people's lawns.
I live in a development where soil was brought in, fill was brought in. Like, those things aren't going to naturally occur. Now, I back up to a natural area, and those things occur in that area, but not in – listen, I've tried it. There's parts of the year where I don't mow just for the sake of not mowing. Mm-hmm. And I'm actually naturalizing the lower back section and letting it naturalize, but it keeps getting overturned with invasives. There's so much invasives in that area that it's hard to – until that gets taken under control, I can't work on the beneficial stuff that I can do.
So I think it's a – like the Xerxes Society really promotes No Mow May, and I understand why they do, because it raises awareness.
Yes.
You get people on board. My worry is you're going to get people on board with that, and then when they realize, oh, this didn't actually help, and I really need to do this instead, how many people are going to fall off the wagon because they felt misguided? Instead of just relying on, this is what you need to do. I think when you average out the math, you're going to get more people on board when they know exactly what they need to do. Yeah. Versus saying, do this so that you find out that you need to go over here and make that triangle. I think you're going to have more people drop off than would end up at that end goal anyway.
Yeah.
But that's just my opinion. I think, I think our efforts are better served mowing less, mowing higher, and then creating dedicated meadow space or having
less
lawn.
Space. Yeah, having less lawn.
Like having less lawn versus just not mowing.
But we're not bashing anyone that's not mowing.
Yeah.
You know, if that's what you can do to do a part, it's not as beneficial, but there are benefits. Yep. So do what you can.
All right. Told you we'd be done in 5 minutes.
Yep, that can be our secret.
Leave a review. So 5 stars, please. If you haven't subscribed already, please do so with us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, really wherever you listen to your podcasts. It goes a long, long way with us in helping us promote this native plant message and letting people know that, hey, maybe no mow May is not what you should be doing, and maybe you should be planting pollinator habitat instead. Yeah. So, all right. With that, thank you, everyone. I'm Tom.
And I am Fran. Thank you again, everyone. Coming up next week, we have Bob Blue with Centerton Nurseries and TrueBlew Natives. So we were so excited about this episode. We talked, I think, for 2 hours.
Yeah.
It's one of our longest episodes. That's good, not a rooted discussion.
20 minutes that we talked to them before we recorded, and another 20, 30 minutes afterwards that are not recorded. That's where we got in the juicy deets.
Yeah, yeah. On stuff that you can't you can't publish. But we're really excited to get this one out. We're looking forward to sharing with this one with you. So make sure you tune in, and we'll see you again next time. And until then, keep it native.
Woods, wetlands, and dales grows a bounty of beauty that never fails. Our native plants, so diverse and so rare, treasures of our land beyond compare. From the ferns below, soaring oaks above, each plant has a place each family's love. Monarch caterpillars launch milk, wheat so tall, bees buzz about, sipping nectar fall. Oh, native plants, how you grace this land. In your diversity, we will take a stand. To preserve our generations to come, and beauty and potency second to none. To protect and preserve the earth, to restore the native plant movement you just can't ignore.
Goldenrod, asters, and flowers galore. Monarch is so stunning, can't help but adore. Their colors, their fragrance, a feast for the eyes. Their value to wildlife, no need to disguise.
Native plants, how you grace this land. In your diversity, we will take a stand.
Thank you for listening to the Native Plants Healthy Planet podcast, presented by Pinelands Nursery. Remember to like, share, follow, and comment.